Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our Real Talk on Real Estate. And today I want to go over how much money you can make subdividing land. Okay. So I'm going to start from the beginning. And for those of you guys who joined us and we didn't have sound, we fixed the sound deal. Thank you guys for putting up with our technical difficulties. But here's how much money you can make subdividing land. Now, for those of you guys, I want to explain this to you because I've done you guys a disservice. And one of the biggest reasons that I've done you guys a disservice is because I took for granted that people knew and understood that there was financial viability in subdividing land and making profits from subdividing land. And, just like eating in the morning, you just know that you do it, right? Like tying your shoes. You just take for granted that everybody just bends over, ties their shoes, and knows how to do it unless they're an infant. Now, one of the things that I've done because of all of our buy land, build houses, us buying land and building apartment buildings, us buying land and building commercial retail over the years, I just took for granted that people knew the process of subdividing land, entitling land, and taking advantage of doing that. Now, one of the big things that I didn't realize is that it was less common than what I had anticipated people and their bandwidth of knowledge was in regards to subdividing land. Now, look, I didn't go into subdividing land to make money. I did it as a ploy of being able to generate profits from my residential homes. So watch, follow me here, because what we're going to do today is I'm going to break this down for you guys in simple terms of how an end user generates profits from subdividing land, because you guys can carve off lots where you guys actually get them for free. Not only can you carve off lots where you get them for free, but you can also make profits in hundreds of thousands of dollars just doing single family little flips of lots. But on the commercial sector, you can go really big and make millions of dollars. And I'm going to show you guys all of that. So we're going to start off with a single family residential. We're going to move and migrate into the commercial land entitlement and subdividing, and then we're going to go into like specific use. So for those of you guys that are saying back going, I want to learn about multifamily, or I want to learn about how to utilize land to do apartment buildings, or I want to go in to do hotels or restaurants or eateries or industrial warehouse or whatever it is, I'm going to go into specific use. So there's going to be three sectors that we're going to talk about today. But what you have to look at is you have to look at this from the perspective of the end buyer. Okay, so who is the end buyer? So when we're talking about residential, the builder is usually the end buyer, or the homeowner that's coming in to be able to subdivide that land, sell them a single parcel so they can build a house, right? So you got to think about it in lieu of the end user. And so when I was younger, back in the early 90s, and I was sitting back going, okay, I want to build some houses, land was like the key. And so I sat back and thought, okay, if I can buy land and I can subdivide it out where I can sector it off and I can get free lots, where like I just bought a slightly larger parcel, okay, where I went in and I just took off one acre lot, and I would simply just divide them into half acre lots. Now, the lots to me were worth the exact same, whether it was a half acre or 1 acre, because I could sell the same 2,500 square foot house at that time for like $400,000, whether it was on a half acre or 1 acre lot. People really didn't care. All it came down to was comps, comparable homes that were selling in that area. Whether it was on a half acre lot or 1 acre lot really didn't matter. So to me, I sat back and said, well, shoot, if people are going to buy and pay the same price was on a half acre, 1 acre lot, let me just buy a 1 acre lot for what I'm paying for a half acre lot, cut this sucker in half, and now I double my land amount, meaning I got one lot for free. So I use that concept. And we still use it today. So one of the big things that we land up doing is we go in and we buy larger parcels for residential use. And one of the big things for you guys is you can go in and you can tie up this land without having to go in and utilize any money at all. Post 2008, one of the big things that I did is I stopped buying land and I started controlling land. Two entirely different things. Okay. And the reason I stopped buying land was because I knew that once I own that land, in spite of what happens economically, I have to pallet that land until I can sell it. Whether I build a house on it, whether I build a building on it, or whether somebody just wants the land to be able to go off and do something on their own. And so hence pre-2008, I landed up with a shit ton of land that I couldn't utilize because the market shifted so aggressively. So what I landed up doing is I migrated to where I was investing my capital, and I landed up using my capital for smarter investments, buying assets that were cash producing. Land didn't produce me cash. So how you make money in land is by controlling it. You go in through the means of either owner financing or an option to purchase the land, and you set terms and conditions on purchasing that land so that way you control it. You go into the table with a deposit, but you can walk away from that land, or if you don't walk away from the land, you can go through the full subdivide process. And if something changes economically during that process, you just walk away. You might lose your deposit, but if you do it during your due diligence period, you don't even lose your deposit. You get your deposit money back, you walk away, and you move on to a different area. Okay. Now that's worst case scenario. But what I like about single family residential lots is that I looked at it super simple from a perspective of saving money. I went in as a builder. So you look at this from a builder's perspective. So for those of you guys who don't have construction experience, never want to build homes, and don't want to utilize that as a perspective to be able to shuttle your business in, then look at this from the simplicity of just subdividing lots. Now, for those of you guys who are wholesalers and you guys are pounding the phones and you guys are trying to go out there and create sales through wholesaling, skip tracing, and all of that aggressive legwork. I did that in multi-level marketing back in the 90s. Have zero desire to do that. It's a shit show. It's not fun. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I want to be able to go to work. I want to put it into action, tangible processes that can work for me. And then at the end of the day, take those processes and then sell off parcels of land to other people. So we've been able to use this as a tool that we've implemented into our day in, day out business for both residential and commercial development and subdividing. And we've made millions of dollars doing it. So you guys have the ability not only to make small amounts of money, but exponential amounts of money being able to subdivide land. So if you guys want to go in and you guys really want to be able to generate profits from it, one of the questions I've had is, who do we sell this land to? And so you sell it to the end user. So let's look at residential, okay? So we go in, we buy a residential lot. We go in and we just subdivide this lot in half. Now, always go in and talk to your survey companies, guys. The survey companies in your local area, they are the ones that'll do this for you. You can pay them a light consulting fee. They'll subdivide this lot for you. As a single parcel where you could build out one lot, it's only worth as much as that one house. But if I go in and I say, let's get two parcels, build a house here, to an end user, I can still sell a $500,000 house here and a $500,000 house here. So I'm willing to spend, $80K on this lot and $80K on this lot, but I might have bought the whole parcel for $80K. Now, this is real. This is what we do right now, okay? So when you guys go in, and we don't go in and put roadways in. This first part for residential, we go in at the first breakaway point and we just simply subdivide land, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. So for those of you guys who are watching this going, Jerome, I don't have a lot of money. Well, if you just joined us, I want you guys to go back, rewatch the video, and then put in there #repeat so you guys understand how we control the land without tying up a bunch of money or without any money at all out of pocket. Okay. And so this is what we started doing post 2008. So pre 2008, we were going in, we were knuckling up the money to buy these lots, not no more, because we landed up tied up with a ton of capital in the land. And I couldn't use that capital. It tied up too much capital. It was stupid. I wasn't thinking straight when I was younger because I didn't know. No one taught me. No one mentored me to say, Jerome, don't do that. So now I'm telling you guys, don't do that. Just tie up the lot right here. And then go through this process. You hire your survey company. Your survey company, for a light consulting fee, might charge you about $2,000, $3,000 to be able to go in and go through the city process of cutting this lot in half. Okay, it takes about 60 days to do. You'll have a minimum of one meeting, potentially two meetings, and that's why it's 60 days, because the meetings typically are only once a month. Okay, now since things post-COVID have been able to be on, since they're on Zoom, sometimes they're doing them weekly. So to our benefit, it might even be a faster process than what you guys are thinking right now. And you can make thousands of dollars doing it. This is awesome. I mean, you make $80,000 and this is light. We're doing one right now where we paid $170,000 for a 10-acre parcel. I can only get 3 lots out of it. The roadway is going to cost me about $50,000, but the lots are selling for between $155 and $170 per lot. And I'm going to make 3 lots out of it. And so I'm going to spend about $25,000 building the roadways, doing the subdivide process. Let's say we're $50,000 into a $170,000 lot. You go 150. So 170,000. Let's say we're 50,000 into it. That means we're 220K all in. you take 160K per lot times 3. What is that, guys? So you take 160 times 3, right? 160 times 3 is $480,000. That equals $480,000. Subtract the 220K minus 220, right? We minus the 220. That's $260,000. That's our profit. This will take me about 90 days to do. Okay, our survey company is going to do the subdivide for me. We're going to put in the roadways. We're going to hire someone to come in, put the roadways in. The roadways are going to cost us about $20,000, and we're going to make $260K in 90 days. Not a bad little transaction, right? So when you say how much money can be made, depends on your creativity, depends on you. Now, one of the big things is, where do you find this land? Like, where do you go out? Where do you find this land? Well, it's right in your backyard. And what we do, if you guys haven't done our 5-day land challenge, I recommend it. I'll put that at the end of this video so you guys can go in and watch our 5-day land challenge. And in our 5-day land challenge, I talk to you guys about finding, not looking for land, but actually looking for a business model. So you're looking for homes that fit the demographic of what we're doing. Now, because we deal in semi-custom spec homes, we don't deal with the mass median. We go in and we search for our business model. Okay, so what is that business model? That business model is our homes that are selling for an excess of $400,000. I typically say, let that bar of entry be $500,000. So we go $500,000 and we look for homes first, right, that support the business model. So first you go in, you look for homes that are not in tract subdivisions. What is a tract home subdivision? They're master plan communities where they're cookie cutter homes that are all on top of each other, like D.R. Horton, Pulte, Toll Brothers, Lennar Homes, all, you know, the big builders, LGI Homes, they're all out there, right? In all of your communities, you guys have seen the flags that are sailing in those new communities with all of these tract homes that are cookie cutter. Now, don't go in and do that stuff. That stuff is next level, and I'll teach you guys that stuff. But what you guys want to do is just go in and do this low level stuff where you guys go in, slice land in half, and you guys go in and create profits like this or like this over the course of just like 90 days. It goes to the first breakaway point. You don't have to worry about utilities. You don't have to worry about roadways. You don't have to worry about water, sewer, and infrastructure. It's there. All you're doing is taking a pre-existing lot. You're slicing it in half. You're going just outside of those tract home communities where people like myself, we grew up on large parcels of land. We always lived in what was called semi-rural areas. We weren't down in the middle of Timbuktu. We weren't out in the middle of some farm country that there was no stores and restaurants or anything. That stuff was all 5-10 minutes from our house. But it was semi-rural areas that the city is growing to, is following the capacity of growth, but where people like myself don't want to live on top of each other. I've never lived in a home where I was on top of people. It just didn't fit my lifestyle. Now, I know a lot of people live like that. You yourself might be living like that, and that's okay. That's just not our demographics. Our demographics hits the upper 24% of upper middle class people, which constitutes for 24% of our population of home buyers. And so we go in and we look for land in areas where homes are selling to more affluent people, more, not wealthy, not rich people. We're not talking about multimillionaires or multi-million-dollar homes. We're just talking to the upper middle class. We're talking about people like our moms and dads, our grandparents, people that have lived and worked a 30-year career. They have expendable income. They're going out and they have the ability to have their last home built in an area where they're not right on top of each other, and they're able to downsize a little bit, but have some land, some freedom, some flexibility. Or people that are just slightly more affluent that can go and buy in these areas and be able to have the joy and luxury of having larger parcels of land. Those are the areas that we build in, and it's all over the country. It doesn't matter if you're in the East Coast in Pennsylvania. Doesn't matter if you're up north in Connecticut. Doesn't matter if you're down south in Central Florida. Doesn't matter if you're in Oklahoma City. It doesn't matter if you're in Texas, in Austin, San Antonio, or Dallas. Doesn't matter if you're here in New Mexico, and in Phoenix, in Tucson. Doesn't matter if you're in Utah, Salt Lake City, or Provo. Doesn't matter where you're at, ladies and gentlemen. There is semi-rural land everywhere. One thing that you'll notice when you drive across this country is there is so much country and so much land available. Most people don't even stop to realize that the land they need to do this is right underneath their nose, and they don't even realize it. Okay. So that's the residential part of this. Now, that you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you multiply it multiple times, you could probably make several millions of dollars doing it. Okay. But this is the lower barrier of entry. And for most people that are watching, they're sitting back going, Jerome, they're going, I can do this, right? Like this I can do. It's not expensive. It's super simple. You get into no infrastructure. You're not a lot of expenses, if any at all. And you can do this. Anybody can do the single lot subdivide. And that's how it's done. Now, let's go in higher level, guys. And if you're just starting out, you're going, I can't get higher level. I'm just trying to pallet this. Watch, because knowing is knowledge. And if you don't pay attention to what can be, you'll never know that it's available to you. So if you're watching right now, and this is being tough to pallet, pay attention, because you need to watch the next level so that you can understand that this isn't that hard. Okay. So let's pallet off the next level. Let's go to commercial. Okay. Let's talk about commercial subdividing and land entitlement. Okay. Now, what I recommend to all of you guys is don't try to be the big badass developer that's going in, putting in massive infrastructure. That's how people go out of business. I had a buddy, his name was Devin, and Devin owned a mortgage company called Westar Mortgage years ago back in Austin. And I remember Devin came into Scottsdale, Arizona, and he was a badass, very aggressive, wanted to be this big multi-million-dollar developer like what we're doing now. But this was years ago. And I remember Devin going in and buying this subdivision. He's going, yeah, it's right down the road from Ritz-Carlton and all the big hotels. And he went in and bid off more than he could chew. Hence, 2008 hit. He almost lost his wife. He almost lost his he almost went bankrupt. He lost the entire subdivision and it killed him. You don't want to be a Devin, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go off and try to do massive infrastructure development. Not right now, unless you have the financial viability to do so, because that's expensive. What I want to teach you guys is how to do this where it's palatable for the average person, where you can taste it, feel it, smell it, and generate profits from it without getting crushed. Okay? Because if you get crushed before you have any success, you're screwed, right? That's worthless to absolutely anybody out there. So here's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. You go off and you're selling paper. That's what you're selling, is paper. Now, we just went into northern Dallas area, and it's called the Golden Beltway. Okay, it's where the main highway is stretching all the way up into Oklahoma City. At some point in time, Dallas is going to stretch all the way up into the panhandle of Oklahoma City. Now, because we're going to this area, everybody knows this Golden Beltway, and people are trying to sell off land for ridiculous prices. We're competing with Donald Trump. We're competing with Jerry Jones. We're competing with Berkshire Hathaway. We're competing with these big guys. And they don't want to sell us off these little parcels of land. Like I'm going, I just want to build a little apartment complex with 300 units. I just need like 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 acres. And they're going, no, Jerome, you need to buy it off a minimum of 35 acres. And I go, well, I don't need 35 acres. What do you do with 35 acres? This is what you do with it. So you take this odd shaped lot that kind of comes out, and it's 35 acres. Let's say for sake of example, okay? Now, there's maybe a street that kind of rolls through here, another street that rolls through here. There's another parcel of land that doesn't belong to you that's right here. That doesn't belong to you, but there's another highway that runs through here. And let's give you guys a visual on this, okay? Now, we're going to go in, and I just want to be able to bite off an apartment complex that sits someplace on this. So let's say that I just go in and I bite off this section right here. And let's just call it this section. And I do an apartment complex right here. Let's say that this is 10 acres. And I'm going to do 300 units. Now, this hard corner, let's say that this is zoned like commercial, C1. Okay, so we go in like C1. Okay, now depending on the municipality is going to depict what that zoning code is. They're all different through different municipalities, but most of them start with like a C for commercial or mixed use and a number. So like it's a mixed use development. This might all be like an M1 or M6 or M3 or whatever it is for mixed use. And we're going to go in and on this hard corner, maybe we can carve off where there's like pad sites, and it's commercial pad sites. So we do, okay, we're going to do a strip center here. We're going to do a strip center here. And we're going to do another building right here where maybe we should cut this in half, and there's like a Starbucks in here. And maybe there's like a, whatever, an In-N-Out burger or a Pizza Hut or something. So there's some type of food eatery right there. Okay. Now, when we go in, we have this section here. That's all retail, right? We have this section here that's also commercial retail. Okay, we have this section here that's all commercial retail. Now, we don't know who's going to lease in these spots yet, but we're going to section this off as commercial. And what we're going to do is we're going to get an architect to do this for us. This costs a little bit more money, but it is super viable financially. Now, let's say we go in and we buy this 35 acres as just agricultural land. And let's say we're not in North Dallas where people are screaming, ranting, and raving about the growth of this Golden Beltway. Let's say that we're in just any typical city, right? Now, where do you find this land? I always tell people, be a small little fish in a big giant pond, okay? Don't try to be the big dog everywhere you go. This is just a little development. This road right here might carry traffic 100 miles through and through. And 100 miles away might be absolutely nothing but cornfields, okay? Don't be 100 miles away building, trying to do this in cornfields, because if you do, you're probably going to go broke, okay? Now, let's say for sake of example, that right over here on the other side of this, you just found out, because it's all public information, that a Home Depot is going in right here. And maybe this one right here is Home Depot. Okay, but not only that, on the side of the Home Depot, there's a Costco that's also going in. Okay. And then you find out that this land that you don't own, the school district picked it up, and they're going to be doing, we don't know when they're going to do it, but they're going to pick up this lot, and that's going to be a school. Why is there going to be a school there? Because there's rooftops, right? So over here, there's maybe like residential rooftops that are going in, and maybe there is a DR Horton over here. Maybe there is a Lennar Homes. Maybe there's a subdivision that comes in off of this road that goes right here into a subdivision that comes in, has a cul-de-sac, another one right here, has a cul-de-sac, comes in over here, there's another artery, has a cul-de-sac, comes over here, has a cul-de-sac, and then comes out. And all of these are individual lots. You guys have seen them with individual homes, right? There's homes on this backside over here. There's homes on this side right here. And there's just lots everywhere coming in, and there's houses going in all over the place. So we have these lots that are going in, and there's houses that are going in mass quantities over here. Okay, you're not putting this in. That's just already there. It's already been approved. It's been approved. There's going to be lots that are coming in right here. There's going to be lots over here, right? There's going to be lots over here. There's going to be lots over here. Okay. And you know this subdivision's going in. It looks like a spider web right there, Superman. Or Spider-Man. Spider-Man in there. Okay, so you got this subdivision coming in. Now you're this guy right here. So you're going to put in all your multifamily apartment stuff right here. And let's go ahead and let's highlight that out in blue. Okay, so these are our apartments right here. Now you're going to take this land, and let's say that you go in, you buy this land for, let's call it $1.5 million. It's just agricultural land. It doesn't have a specific use on it yet. It doesn't have any usability. It's just cornfields, but it's like cornfields in the Golden Beltway of wherever city is being built. So now you go in and you section this off as an apartment building where you go in and you have multiple buildings. Let's say you're doing like this urban style development that's coming in, and you have this. And now we create a roadway, okay? So now we're going to create a little roadway that comes in through here, and it's going to section this off. So now we have a little easement. Now, what do we do with the rest of this land? Now, let's say that the rest of this land, we section this off for like condos right here, okay? So let's say that this section here comes in, and this all becomes residential, just like this. And now we go in, we have a little bit of commercial, a little bit of apartments, and now we're going to do single family residential with roadways that come in to the same thing, a bunch of lots, roadways with a bunch of lots that cuts through here, a roadway that kind of cuts through here, right? We have a school, so there's roadways that come through here. Now, I'm making this look complicated, but it's not, because you're not doing this. You're hiring a survey company to come in and do this for you. So now we come in and we do residential, and over here we do condos, and now over here we do residential. Okay, now we just go in, we do this on paper. We hire a survey company to put this together for us. We go through the entitlement process of subdividing this out and calling it out. We meet with the city, we get their approval. We go through the full entitlement process. We go in here, we pay $1.5 million for this. When this is done on paper, no roadways are in here. It's just conceptual. It's only done on paper. Now you get the signed, sealed, and delivered piece of paper from the city that says, boom, stamped and approved. This is commercial. That's apartments. That's condos. That's residential. Now you can go off and sell this to these guys because this was just agricultural land. You just save them. This process is going to take you every bit of about 9 months to do. Okay. Potentially longer, but probably not more than a year. But look at what happens. I could go off and I could sell now. This has 300 units. Let's say I sell it off for a modest price of 300 units just for this 10 acres of like $15,000 a door. So I have 300 doors times $15,000 per door, which is very, that's $4.5 million just for this one portion right here. Okay. Just for this, let's call it $10,000 a door because there's no infrastructure in there. So let's call it $10,000 a door, and we have 300 doors. That's $3 million just for this right here, okay? And you could sell this off right here alone. Now, this commercial stuff is going to be sold slightly different. These pad sites and this maybe only takes up 5 to 7 acres, but let's say that this now is only worth $1.5 million, that commercial spot alone. That pays for this. The rest of this is profitable. Now, the residential home builders, they can't pay that type of price for this land because there's not as much density. When there's not as much density, you can't sell this land off for the same price. But this condo land is worth more than this land because it's more dense. Okay, the larger the density, the larger the value of that land is. So let's say that in this condo community here, we can land up doing 150 condos. How much is each one of those lots worth per condo? Let's say that each one of those condos, if we're able to do 100, let's just call it 100 condos, 100 condos. And let's say they're worth $20,000 each. So 20,000 times 100, that's $2 million right there alone. Now, the residential stuff, you go off, you sell it to a DR Horton, and let's say that these are worth 20,000 and you have another 100 homes that are in this one. Okay. The lots are bigger than the condos. You can tell the land's a little bit more, a little larger, but you have 100 and you sell it off at 20,000. That's another $2 million. Okay. For 100 homes. Okay. Let's add this stuff up. So we have 2, 4, that's 7, $8.5 million. That's our gross. Okay, now let's subtract this out. We have $8.5 million, right? So we have 8.5 minus $1.5 million because that's what we paid for the land, right? So we have to subtract this out. Then we had an architect. We went through we went through the full process of land entitlement to get this divided out. So you're going to have survey companies. You're going to have costs for surveys. So you're going to have survey companies. The survey work on this alone, especially if you hire them for a consultant, probably going to cost you someplace in the neighborhood of at least $20,000 if you go through the full process. So we'll call this $20K. Now, you're going to need an architect that you're going to need to go through this with as well. Now, the survey work, you're also going to get a geotechnical engineer to make sure this is even viable. The geotechnical engineer probably charge you about $2,500. Okay, so you get a geotechnical engineer. That's a dirt engineer, by the way. It's just a fancy word for they test the dirt to make sure there's no toxins in it, there's no environmental hazards, that you can actually build on it. There's not too much clay, or it's not a flood zone, and there's not silt under there. So you're gonna get your dirt engineer. Okay, so you're gonna get your environmental engineer. You're gonna pay them about $2 to $3K. Okay, now you're gonna hire an architect, and the architect isn't going to do anything more than do a conceptual layout for you. The survey company going to divide this and put the roads in. The architect's going to go in and lay out how the houses are going to sit, how the condos are going to sit, how the apartments are going to sit, and how the commercial buildings are going to sit when you're going through the entire process. So the architect might charge you another $20,000, let's say, and I think that's actually kind of high, but let's just say it did. Okay. Now, remember, this is second level. Guys, if you guys just joined in and you guys haven't watched the residential portion that's not expensive, less encumbrancy than this, then go back and hit hashtag repeat in the comments section. If you like this content, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to pound that thumbs up button, click and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you guys are notified when I'm going over bullish stuff just like this that can hash you guys out massive profits, guys. Because once you guys do the residential stuff, you're going, you know what? I'm going to go into one of these bigger developments that Jerome's talking about because I can go off and potentially make, let's see what we're going to make, right? That's what we're figuring out now. So we have our architect, we got our survey company, we got our environmental engineer, and we may need to go in and get a civil engineer involved in this process as well. Now, here's what's cool. You don't have to know this. All you need to do is go in and hire this person right here, the architect. The architect will hire this person. The architect will hire that person. And then the architect will even bring in potentially a civil engineer for you. Okay, so you bring in a civil guy or girl. And the civil engineer might charge you someplace in the neighborhood. Let's call it $20,000. Okay. Now, where do you get this money from? Well, you either get it from making it doing single family residential ones so that you can go in and pallet this off, or you can raise the capital to do this. And as soon as you have conceptual drawings, people will come in and flock to what you're doing. And the main reason they'll flock to it is because you have something tangible. So I always tell people, money is in the designs. It's in the prints. So anytime you go in and you have prints, blueprints, there's money in it because now someone has something they can touch, feel, and visually see. And so investors, they understand this process better than you may think because they've been investing in assets just like this. So if you guys go to real estate meetups and you guys are going to investor meetups and you guys go out and spend an evening or two here and there meeting up with other investors that are like-minded professionals, you can go to Eventbrite, you can go in online and you can look for stuff like this where you can find meetups in your local city where people are investing. They're looking for stuff just like this. Okay, so you go in, we have $20,000, $40,000, $63,000 in expenses. Okay, so we have $63,000. Oops, so we got 63K. Sorry for the mess, guys. Okay, so we have minus 1.5, that's $7 million, and then we take another, let's call it $75,000. Okay, so minus. That means you have $6.25 million in profitability. Okay. So you can go in, ladies and gentlemen, and you guys can go in through this entire process and realistically make $0.25 million. Now, this might take you 1 year to do, but this is viable. We've been doing this forever. Now, it just so happens that a lot of what we're doing now, we're building it out. But when we were like going up in North Dallas area and we were working on building this stuff out and they were telling us that they would only sell us off 35 acres. Here's our business model, guys. And this would be my business model. If I would encourage this to be your business model too. We would tie this entire 35 acres up exactly the way I talked about in the residential sector. I do it on an option to buy. And it is all contingent on my ability to do this. Okay. And I usually ask them for a 6-month due diligence period to make sure that this is viable. And what I do in that 6 months is I give them small feeds of commitment. Okay. So let's say this $1.5 million, I come to the table and say, hey, I'm really serious about this, but I need to have 6 months contingent on me being able to entitle the land and subdivide it. And if I can't do it, the landwords are worth nothing to me. So if the city tells me no, you can have your land back. Okay. So I put several months on the books of due diligence. Maybe it's not 6, but maybe it's 4 months. By the time I get through 4 months, I should know whether the city's going to support it and how good it's going before I actually immerse myself in it. Okay. So then I get to the 4th month and I tell them, okay, I'm here at month number 4. We're almost through the process, but I still have 2 more months to go. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to give you another $50,000. And I'm going to put in here, so I'm 150,000 in, and I'm going to make $50,000 of my original 100 non-refundable, meaning that I believe that I'm moving in the right direction and I'm putting a commitment level to it. So I haven't closed on it yet, haven't given them the 1.5 million, but I committed to the $50,000. Plus I'm going through all this right here too, ladies and gentlemen. I'm paying for all this at the exact same time. So I'm committed, right? And so, but I'm not exposing my liability. Because if the market changes or something happens like the pandemic or the housing market or interest rates or something crazy just goes bonkers on me, I can just walk, right? So I go through this and I go through this entire process. Now, I also have another contingency. The contingency is the approval process, right? That I have the ability to exercise 2 extensions of a minimum of 60 days. Now, a lot of times they'll tell you no to that because that's an extra 120 days, but they might give you 2 extensions of up to 30 days. That gives you an extra 60 days, right? So now you get to month number 4, and in that going hard, I'll say, okay, but I want my due diligence. I want my closing period to be 45 days instead of 30, and I want 2 of them. So that gives you an extra 30 days at the end of your contract if you still haven't gotten approval. So now that takes you to month number 7. Okay. Now, no money out of pocket that for the entire piece of land, but I'm committed, right? I'm committed. I control the land. I don't own it yet, but I control it. Legally, I control it because we're doing this all through title. Don't go and do this without a title commitment and without going through a professional title company, because if they revert on you, you're screwed. Okay. So just know that you have to go in and have this tied up and secured with a legitimate title company or a title attorney that is holding this in escrow for you so that you don't get screwed and you don't screw them either. Okay. Now, what we do up there is we go in and say, okay, guys, I'm going to have this 35 acres. All I want is this 10 acres right here, but I'm going to entitle all of this. Then I'm going to go to market with all the realtors in there that know all these people, the school boards, the people the realtors that are in this area that are already selling this off to these guys. And I'm going to talk to them and say, hey, look, I'm going to have all this ready to go. We want to sell to these guys. What builders are here? Oh, Lennar Homes. Oh, KB Homes. Oh, Sivich Thomas or whoever it is, DR Horton, whoever it is. And then they start giving them access to what we're doing here. Okay. So the condos, same thing, because those same builders might build out these condos. Okay. But it's already entitled and they're willing to pay for it because it took me a year to do this. And if you're a big builder and you save 1 year to turn profits, that $1 million is worth it all day long. Okay. Because this apartment complex is like an $80 million apartment complex. So to come in and pay $3 million is like a drop in the bucket. Okay. So now you're just a paper developer. And all you're doing is selling paper, guys. And now you let the developers come in and you let them go to work on this stuff. But you provide them with the survey. You provide them with the environmental reports. You provide them with an architectural layout. And you also provide them with the civil engineering on where your water, sewer, and utilities, your dry and wet utilities are going to come into this land. Okay? So you've done them a massive favor. That's why it's worth this $6.25 million in profitability after about 12 months. But you're not pulling in electric. You're not putting in roadways. You're not doing any of that stuff. You're not palleting any of that stuff off. You're letting these guys go in and do it as they go in and do their infrastructure. You're still selling it off for only like $20,000 a lot. They may be able to sell these off for like $50,000 a lot. And they may pay $10,000 a lot for infrastructure, giving them a $20,000 upside profitability and them going in and doing the infrastructure on their behalf. Okay. But let's say that we only sold this for half of that. Let's say we only sold this for $10,000 a lot, and we only cut that down $1 million. So we're going to subtract off $1 million from this, and same thing here. We only sell it off for $10,000. Now I know what this is worth. That we're giving this away already at $3 million. We'll pay that all day long. I'm not going to give these guys any discount because that's like stupid free land. I'm not going to give these guys a discount because $1.5 million for a commercial pad sites of like 5 to 7 acres all day long. You're not finding that. These guys, maybe I'll give them a little discount. But even if I knocked off $1 million here and $1 million here, how many of you guys would like in a year to make $4.25 million? Right here. You used to make $4.25 million. Still not a bad profit. Okay. Now you got to figure out a way to be able to deploy that into something that's a long-term holding, something that you can go in long-term, cut this out and not pay taxes. Because if you have to pay taxes on that, that's a $2 million tax bill. That sucks. You know, that's why you get into large assets, cash producing assets that you can depreciate through cost segregation and you pay zero in taxes on that. That's why investing becomes fun. And that's why understanding the game of underwriting becomes so damn important. Because think about it. If you guys had a $2 million education, you sat back and scratched your head and had to write a check to the IRS for $2 million in tax liability, how shitty is that check to write? That sucks. So I'm just telling you guys, like while you're in the game of doing this, learn the asset purchasing deal, the underwriting of purchasing assets, because now you can take it and you can go buy a $5 million, $6 million, $8 million building, apartment complex or something and cost segregate this and depreciate that over the course of a few years and not pay any taxes at all. Zero. That's how the wealthy do it. And you can too. You can too. You just learn. So for those of you guys that are bashing the wealthy, you don't have to be wealthy to exercise this. These same tools are what help the wealthy get wealthy and can help you increase your profitability and save, because it's not how much money you make, ladies and gentlemen, it's how much money you keep. That's what it's about. It's how much money you keep. Okay. So that's important. That's important. Understanding the investment game is important, because if you understand the investment game, it reduces tax liability. It's the reward that our federal government gives to you and I as investors for being able to develop and create infrastructure, because the federal government in the 80s and 90s tried this. They suck at it. They know they suck at it. So they don't want to become developers anymore. They already tried this shit. It doesn't work for them. So they'll incentivize you and I to do this. If we invest in assets, create housing, create living wages, in here, and we create economic increases, our benefit is we get to write it off. Okay. So you and I get a benefit from stuff like that as developers. That's our reward. That's their little incentivizing us to go out and do this type of stuff. Okay, so let's look at special use, and then we're going to end this video in the next few minutes. Now, if you love this content, guys, you guys want to continue, smash that thumbs up button. Click and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you guys can get more content just like this. At the end of this video, I'm going to go ahead and put up our 5-day land challenge video at the end of this video so that you guys can watch our 5-day land challenge so you guys know how to find this stuff, right? Because you can learn how to do it, but if you can't find it, well, what is it worth? It's worth nothing. So you need to learn how to find parcels like this, like the right ones, right? And like I always say, be a small minnow in a big pond, right? The big developers that are going in, building the Costcos, the Home Depots, the roads, the infrastructure, follow those guys. Because if the city's supporting that growth, infrastructure is already going in, all you have to do is just be this little guy that just kind of follows the progress of that, buy your own little sector. And as you look across the street, there's millions and millions and millions of dollars in these little tiny pockets everywhere. But don't try to reinvent it and try to say, oh, I'm going to be the badass and create the city flow. No, don't do that. Just be the minnow, be the small fish in a big giant pond. Everybody wants to pound their chest, be like, I'm the king, I'm the big fish. Screw that. That's a good way to get screwed, to screw yourself and go bankrupt. Ladies and gentlemen, I've learned that the hard way. Be a small minnow in a big giant ocean, okay? And just carve off your own little sector. Just slice off your own little piece of meat there and go out and make millions of dollars, okay? Now, specific use, guys, specific use. That's when you go in and you get a parcel of land and you're looking for a specific use. Typically, it's an end user, okay? So if you're looking for an end user, let's say that you know that there's industrial warehouse that's needed for sake of example. It's all agricultural farmland. And you know that because Amazon is building this big, massive warehouse, there's going to be houses that are there. So you're going to go off for a specific use and just go in and parcel off a little 5-acre, 10-acre parcel, and you for specific use. You go in and you can go in and do, let's say you carve off a section for storage, okay? Maybe you do office warehouse. I love office warehouse. Okay, so we do office warehouse. I love office warehouse because it's needed everywhere. Mechanic shops, car accessory dealerships. You can do storage facilities, distribution, all kinds of food places. There's so much stuff. We rent a warehouse to Frito-Lay, for example. It's one of their distribution locations where they go in and they distribute locally and regionally out of that one warehouse. And it's stupid. We bought it from Swanson Foods. We went in, put some truck bays for them. They did a 10-year lease. They paid for the building for me on a specific use. Then we're on their second 10-year lease now. The building's now paid off. They bought it for me. Now it's just all profitability after 10 years. We're 2.5 years into another 10-year lease. I still got 7.5 years left on that lease. So if at the end of 7.5 more years, they've been in there for 20 friggin' years, I've made a shit ton of money. Building cost me absolutely nothing but a down payment. Got that money back already. And it's just all cash flow. Okay. So I love office warehouse. Okay. Multifamily, residential, single family. So whatever the specific use is, that's the other one that you can go in. Now that's when you just go in and carve off like a 5-acre parcel of land and you just use it for whatever the specific use is. So it's usually like an SU1 zoning, and you can go in and do specific use. And you actually go in and get the entitlements for that specific use. Now, what I like is I like buying distressed assets that have a lot of land, because the distressed asset depreciates the value of that land because it's a liability on that land. And because it's a liability on that land, it's worth zero to the banks. So what I like doing is I like going in and buying shitty real estate on big pieces of land, because I could take that land. Now the land I get at a discounted price because the dwelling itself is distressing the value of that land. Now, if you scrape that building off the land, that one land is worth so much more than what it sits with a distressed asset on it. So I like going in and buying just little distressed assets. So if there's like a building right here that maybe occupies part of it, but there's all this land in here, you only need this section for parking. So this is like parking. But half of that land, you don't even need it for that building. So now this is free. I love this. This is an unbelievable, great opportunity to generate profits and income just off of special use land that you can go in and create free and viable land for yourself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the sky's the limit when it comes to how much money you can make in land. It just really depends on, one, what's palatable to you and what your risk tolerance is, right? Now, I just gave you guys the recipe to decrease risk, increase profitability, starting off really low level on the front end, going in doing single family subdivides, just single lots where you can just make, $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 here and there, which is extremely viable. If you're working a full-time job, live on your full-time wage. You make an $80,000 profit, go reward yourself with $10,000. Take the other $70,000, reinvest it, double, put it back into land, and get yourself up to what we talked about, where you're doing big developments, commercial stuff. That's where you'll make millions of dollars. We've been able to go out and do stuff like this, and it's been extremely viable and financially beneficial to us forever. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you guys want to go off and profit from doing land, or you guys can go off and you choose. Go out and wholesale, pound the shit out of those phones, and just, have fun doing it. Go out and do some fix and flips and not know what the viability is. Or buy land, build houses, generate some profits, carve off a little bit of acreage, and go out and generate some profits. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys like this content, you want more of it, pound that thumbs up button, click and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're rewatching this, just put in there in the comment section, pound, #repeat. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week on Real Talk on Real Estate. God bless you guys. Go out there and compound your success.